Welcome to Film Study, an All-American Universe podcast with Lexi. I'm Lexi. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all the things I say all the time at the top of this. Today on the pod, we're talking about Homecoming episode 213, Lose to Win. And I have Star from Starring Star TV on the podcast today. And look, I'm just happy to talk to you because I see you on Twitter all the time and your takes are hilarious.
I love it.
I love like hearing your thoughts about Homecoming. But are you ready to hop in?
I am ready.
Okay. So this one, I believe this one was written by Karia Rose, and I forget. I think it's like A.V. Ubian directed it as well. But what were your out of 10? What would you give it out of 10 overall thoughts?
You know what? I'm gonna be honest. This was a good episode for me. Like, at least a 9 out of 10. At least a 9 out of 10. I would have gave it more of a 10 had I got a little bit more Damone in there. Like, I wanted the guys to actually, go there, like show up. But, that probably would have sent it over the top for me. But a solid 9 out of 10.
I'm actually gonna agree with you on that. I'm trying to think, like, has this happened often where I've like actually been like right? I feel like I've just been like right under, right over.
Right.
But I'm with you at a solid 9. I think they. I'm gonna be honest. I was a little afraid of it being like a PSA sort of type of episode, but how it was handled and how it was written and the balance of everything, I feel like flowed really nicely. I think getting just personally, I mean, like, let's be honest, like as a Black woman, seeing this story dedicated to a bus full of Black women and their experience was like really heartening to see it. Actually, I was on the phone watching the show at the end of the show, and I was just like, obviously a little spoiler alert, we'll get into it, but at the end of it, Amara tells Coach Lonnie, like, you did your job, you got everybody home safe. And I was just like, bro, that's such real life.
For us. It's like, we always hear it said, when you leave your home, especially, we hear it a lot more for Black men than Black women. Mm-hmm. Like, just make sure you make it back home. But to see that also be addressed in regards to Black women, that was powerful for me. Agreed.
No, and for me too. And so, I think it was a great episode. But to get us started, let's talk about I'm gonna skip it. I knew I was gonna start with Keisha, but I'm gonna go to Amara and Marcus, which I think you're a fan of them, right?
So I really do like Marcus.
I don't understand. Explain it to me. Marcus,
they have a ship name of Marcus. So here's the thing. And I've listened to some of your podcasts, so I know.
Get me on this train. Get me on this train, please. I beg. I want to be on this train.
And I know you are not a fan of that ship.
But clearly I need to be because they ain't leaving anytime soon.
And the fact that Marquis is like an avid, like, from what I know, and to be an avid like Damone and a Marcus shipper, then it's like, it's just like, it's the writing is on the wall. And the fact that maybe it's something subconscious, because I notice when things are going well for Marcus and Amara, they're going well for Damone. Like, if you ever go back and
I didn't even think about that.
Watch the previous episodes, like, even during the bomb threat and stuff like that, you have moments where when Marcus is texting Amara, Damon is texting Simone. Like, a lot of their moments kind of parallel one another. And so it may not have stuck out to you before, but if you go back and watch,
it didn't. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was trying to forget.
You're like, I don't want it.
Listen, I know I'm getting it. Like I've accepted that fact, which is why I'm like, get me on the ship so I could like stop being so annoyed every time
You
I
know
see
what?
them.
I just think that I really like, I get the whole Zeke thing, and I got what is his name? Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph.
You know.
Which I thought he was gonna pop back up in this episode for a
That's who
little
I thought the
drama. For a
report.
little
Yeah, I
drama.
thought that was who the reporter was going to be, which is still
Me
maybe could have
too.
been him. We just didn't see him on screen.
Yeah. We just didn't see him.
But I feel like the only other, now unpopular opinion, I would have liked to see Marcus initially with Damon's mom.
I'm right there with you, except she wasn't in season 2 at all.
Right.
We still got 2 more episodes, but
And she was married
it's not looking
season
good.
1. But
And she, well, yeah.
But I'm not gonna lie,
mean,
that was like
sure.
my crack ship. Like I really was like, the chemistry shot off the screen. Like I really did love them, but she's not back. I don't know if she's coming back. We know she's doing big things. I see she's been
Yeah,
working.
I think she has another show.
Yeah. And I think she's done a live production and some other things. So I feel like she's
a wonderful actress.
Yes, she is. Oh, she is phenomenal, especially as the Keena Sims. But I
truly, you get it. You get it. Listen. I have to say this, and I think I've said this before, but her playing Keena really, really like just skyrocketed Keena to like one of my top favorite characters.
Easily, because she is like the mother of mothers. And like, though she's flawed in some ways, I think with good intention, like she only wanted what was best for her son. You know what I'm saying?
She's so 3-dimensional, and she hasn't been like, I know she was like, she would pop up a lot in season 1, but for like this show and for like what we've gotten from this show, she really hasn't been there a lot, especially considering season 2. But the fact that she's able to take all of her scenes and leave with something meaningful and leave an impact is like, I just...
Yes, you cannot.
Applause.
She is very unforgettable. Like you cannot forget her, and even when she is not on screen, like you're kind of yearning for her presence. Like you're like during certain scenes, you're like, "Where is Mama Sims?" Because we call her Mama Sims sometimes. But where is Mama Sims? Like we know, like during certain moments that are pivotal for Damon, that I just wish she was there, but. We are all for her flourishing. But yeah, Amara and Marcus, we know we're gonna get them. So I'm just like, I'm not even gonna fight it. Like, just go. In this episode,
maybe this is the truth. It's because you're not gonna fight it.
They were cute. They were cute this episode, though. I feel like, you know, I felt a little something. With, maybe it was because they was waking up together. I don't know, but I felt a little.
Maybe.
A little something.
You can see in my notes, the first word I wrote was ill.
Like ill. Marcus and Amar in bed. Oh my God.
Look, I gotta keep the notes fun. I gotta keep the notes fun now. Yes. But they did to get to their story, they did start together in bed. It was a little steamy. They had the way he pulled off the sheet. I was like, sir, what? Usually we see some boxers. I ain't even see no boxers, sir. Listen. But it was this whole storyline about that's followed us for a couple of episodes about sort of the bid on the building that was going to be sort of athletic housing, and Dr. P was trying to figure out something else to do with the building and not just turn it into athletic housing. She ends up getting sole discretion of who gets the building because, like, it was, you know, she called in a favor, right? A friend, a reporter who we think might be Ralph, to drop some news about the building sort of being, just the bid on the building being fast moving. And so she confides in Marcus that like a ton of faculty have put in to get like for what to do with this building. And she decides at the end of the episode to turn it into a wellness center. And okay, I was about to say I want your thoughts, but I think because my it was so clear what my thoughts were, I'm gonna explain mine really
Go ahead.
quickly. I'm all for wellness, and I'm
Right.
all for turning part of the building into wellness center. But something that is always a concern at colleges and always a concern at smaller colleges like Bringston, even though it is one of the larger HBCUs, is like housing is a thing.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
housing issues are a thing. It's like one of the biggest like sole problems like in higher education is how to house your
Right.
students. So turning an entire building into a wellness center, especially when you were upset about it becoming athletic housing only to not even know what you want to do with the building anyway. I don't know. For the first time, I was like, I don't know, Amara, I'm not with you on this. I'm sorry, but I want to know your thoughts.
So for me, and I both of my degrees are from Southern University. So I attended an HBCU. A lot of the things that
Rep, which
Southern
one?
University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So going there, like a lot of what they are going through on this show, like we experienced that firsthand. Like a lot of the issues that most people don't even want to touch on or talk about, honey, it runs deep. So I feel this show so deeply in my soul because I've lived a lot of their experiences. However, to answer your question, I knew it was coming yet again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kind of like went along with it. I'm not opposed to it because we knew Marcus from the beginning of the season. We knew Marcus was going to be doing something other than just coaching,
Right.
which was the mental health piece, which I think is amazing. And thinking
Agree.
back to when I went to Southern, I don't recall us having like therapists on campus. And like they had things on campus like fightings, shootings, break-ins, like things that were going on. And I don't recall us, I think we had support, but not to that magnitude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just wonder what else they could have turned the facility into. I know you said perhaps housing, but based on how the season has been going, it's like the writing was on the wall. It's gonna be.
I know. I wish it just had been like a high. The realist in me was just like, I get it and I understand the storyline
Right.
reasons for this, but I want it to be some sort of hybrid building, and that could have been another. I don't know if anybody in the writers' room has like worked in higher education, but that's sort of what's sort of on the I'd say the cutting edge. I
Right,
don't know. I
right.
feel like that's too extreme. But that's sort of what's becoming more popular is turning sort of buildings into hybrid. So you have like housing on the top, but you also have classrooms and you also have other things that you can dedicate it to. So even if it became like, you know, and Brixton's a private university, so even if it became like a wellness center, but it also like went to students who needed scholarships or something like that. I don't know. Like I just would have liked
You're like something. Give us something.
something in addition to like I just sometimes I just get stuck on these like really really minor points, and I'm just like, but I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, let me tell you, I light our group chats up. Like I'm in so many group chats, and I light them up when I have my like think pieces. Like some stuff is just like I'm not gonna put on the timeline, but I just like go down the rabbit hole sometimes.
Yes. Yes. So you get me. But I do think it would like I absolutely think it's amazing that she's dedicating space to building an in-house wellness, because from the looks of it, it looked like they were only bringing in before like outside
Right,
therapists, and like certain students had to find their own resources for that, or she had to like bring in outside resources. So I'm glad that they're dedicating a space
right.
for that. Someone who might need to attend that wellness center institute when it gets built. Keisha McCullough. Keisha McCullough. Um, we know the song and dance, no pun intended. We know that Keisha and Dr. Pace have been sort of going at it. This time, Dr. Pace was going to be honored. There was going to be some sort of recital. And there was a very difficult move that Dr. Pace, you know, in quotation marks, told Keisha she didn't like have to do or didn't have to attempt, but she knew to try to impress her, she would. Turns out, and I'm not gonna lie, as far as this storyline, this I think is the most engaged I've ever been in this story, just because I was not expecting, I was totally anticipating her sort of like breaking something or getting hurt or something trying to attempt this move. But I had no clue that this move was going to be like banned. Like 10 years. 10 years is a long time for something to be banned. And the fact that like Keisha didn't know about this, that it was a banned move and still like attempted it is I was just like, I don't know. Dr. Pace kind of got her good. She kind of got her good because I was not expecting it. And I'm obviously not on her side, but I was just like, this is, I don't know, the most interesting this story has ever been, even just in terms of the direction, with us watching Keisha in that room trying to like imitate Dr. Pace's moves, I think was really inventive. You know, I think one of the criticisms of the pieces that involve Keisha's dancing is that sometimes viewers don't really get it. And I feel like this, they first of all, they had Keisha dance in a way that was like accessible to the viewer because we were watching her imitate her professor's moves, and it was just in a visually sort of a like appealing way. So I don't know, I thought that they did a good job with this storyline in this episode. Gave us a new twist with the move being banned, and obviously Keisha is now sort of 2 weeks removed and out of the program, and she might fail the program because it's like a big chunk of her grade.
Yeah, excuse me, I am not a fan of Dr. Pace. There is a
she's awful.
There's a special place in an extremely hot place for her. I'm going to put it like that, because that woman is pure evil. Like, first of all, you know your students. You know by telling Keisha not to do it, it was a challenge for her to then do it because she wants to impress Dr. Pace so badly, because she wants this so badly. So when Keisha first started dancing, you know the running joke on social media is always Keisha is praise dancing. And I think it's because
wait, I have not seen that.
And I think it's because people and in some of the chats we have people who are trained dancers. So it's the style of dance is not one that we see often on screen. So being able to see her dance in such a way, I feel like that moment inside of the room where she was like dancing along with Dr. Pace's video was like, it was definitely aesthetically pleasing. Like, it was visually beautiful just seeing her go through those motions. What I didn't like was that teachers who will stop at nothing to see your demise, that just does not sit well with me. So even though Keisha can drive me crazy at times,
talk about
Dr. Pace is just a new level. And maybe Dr. Pace is Keisha's karma. I don't know. Maybe it's Keisha's karma for how she treats Cam and how she was talking to Auntie Amara. I don't know. You know, I could be wrong.
I'm so bad to let out that scream.
But I'm wondering if maybe that's what's going on here. Like, her karma is coming back in human form of Dr. Pace.
Oh, wow.
I don't know.
Oh, wow. That's something to be examined for sure. That's really, I'm kind of speechless right now. That was really funny. To your point, it could be. But the funny thing is, I don't know if that's like, I don't even think that's like, at least from the outside looking in. I don't even know if that's top of mind for the writers.
Oh no, they probably are just like whatever, but of course.
Yeah, they're like pleased with her. They love her, and I don't even know if it's like landing how grating she's become to the audience in terms of her relationship with Cam. But to that point, she says something at the end like basically like I'm going to try to get Dr. Pace removed from Bringston. That's amazing. But sweetheart, you need to tell someone. Like, we're asking you what's going on with your foot, and you're like, I fell. So why are like? And I understand she doesn't have evidence, but obviously, Dr. P already knows that you've had issues with this teacher. She already knows sort of the sensitivities with this teacher. So I doubt this, given that you already have that background, and given that she, and maybe Keisha doesn't know this, but Amara already has the background on how Dr. Pace reacted like the first time. Right. And also there's alums, like let's not forget 207 with Reva, where she was just like, oh yeah, Dr. Pace failed me. So I'm sure there's other alums that can speak to just how toxic that environment is. And even like it looked like Dr. Pace isn't even like the dean of the school, because the dean of the school, I guess, was that lady that randomly appeared and was just like acted like Dr. Pace isn't a terrorist. So I don't know. I just feel like she's probably heard some things about that. Like, I'm sure several students
like to
turn on the proper vote. I'm sure several students have come.
You know how they like to sweep stuff under the rug. So
that's true.
I think Keisha is probably going to leverage her father in an effort to maybe like she's gonna tell him, and then he'll tell Dr. P, and then. Because I feel like Zeke is going to show up. Like,
as he should. I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm like, you can't just leave Zeke and we don't see you, honey.
I'm convinced.
We gotta feel this.
Because I honestly feel like, and this is me jumping ahead, but I just want to throw that out there. I feel like we're going to get a moment where Keisha's going to say something. Her dad is going to show up. Zeke is going to find out about Marcus. Lando, when he finds out about Damone, if we get that, and I feel like Keisha's going to make a statement to Simone that's something on the lines of, you're just like your auntie. Like, I feel like that's going to come. So, of course, that's jumping ahead. But my prediction is that Zeke is going to get back there some kind of way to talk to Amara. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was discussed about the adults having somewhat of a triangle as well.
Right. And I do think that they need to bring back up that triangle, because it's still very, on the subject of Keisha, it's still very unresolved to this point, that they literally, and this was an important moment, they literally had Keisha go up to Amara and say like, I'm totally okay with you dating my dad, XYZ. So it's like we're not getting that moment for nothing, or I hope we're not getting that moment for nothing.
Because it's a few other moments that
that's just been dropped. Right. Okay. So yeah. So we'll see, and we'll get more. We'll talk more about that when we get to predictions. Okay. But meanwhile, Nate is prepping for the debate. Willinda asked Nate to get tea on Nico, which she doesn't do. Right. Because in Michelle's words, when they go low, we go high. And, Nico, when they're having this debate, he tries to turn it around and say, oh, that's the problem with her. That's the problem with Nate. She believes that the rules apply to some and not all. So, Willinda ends up giving Nate dirt on Nico in the Twitter deep dive, which, by the way, I encourage everybody to do a Twitter deep dive on themselves. I'm just gonna
listen. I'm like, can I delete my whole, it's out there somewhere, but I'm like, what have I tweeted 20 years ago, like however many years ago Twitter started. I haven't been on there 20 years, but I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
what?
I just encourage it. I just encourage it.
Right.
But you know, Nate, again, what uh after reflecting on what Amara had told her, again has a decision and says, like, you know what, we can either do this campaign clean and
Right.
this race clean. You have two options. We can do this clean, or I can attack you and I will come for you.
Right.
So what are we gonna do? Are we gonna go dirty, or are we gonna do this clean? And they have a moment afterwards where Nico sort of surrenders. And so I'm sure we'll get where the campaign goes after that. Probably in the next, well, definitely in the next two episodes. Definitely in the next two episodes.
Right.
But what did you think about that whole storyline?
So it's so funny because the actress that plays the character of Walinda, I like tweeted something and she tweeted like the Mortal Kombat finish him, because I was like, they need to, I retweeted her. They need to go and like really finish Nico. And if I'm being honest,
that's what she said too. She was just like, finish him.
Right. Going into the episode, quiet as it's kept, I was about to vote for Nico myself, because I'm like, once Nate sabotaged that Damone moment, her and JR, baby,
yes,
they were sliding down a slippery slope with butter on their feet. Like, I'm telling you, like.
And can we talk about how Nate was like, I think she said this. She was like, oh, I need the Damon and Simone tea or something like that. And I'm like,
so you can try to sabotage them again and go try to push Damon back on Thea? Like,
at least JR apologized, honey.
Multiple times, thanks to Gabby.
That part.
But
I was like, oh no.
But
yeah,
no. Nate was like not in my list of favorite people going into this episode. Now, once Nico started playing nasty again, I was like, okay, the lesser of the two. Like, let me do away with Nico. And I get that Nate is trying to do things the right way. But in my mind, I'm kind of just like, do what you have to do. Because number one, right. Nico is not a good person. And number two, Nico is playing dirty. So I respect her wanting to do things the right way, but I just was not here for it. Like, no.
Yeah, and I think, as... and I can't say a universal we, but I think the general public reacted very well when Michelle Obama had originally said that phrase, right. Like, when they go low, we go high. But I also feel like that was like a different time in American history. And I think since then, and we understand like the context of that, the history of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like since then, there's been a little bit of a pushback on that phrase, because it's just like, sometimes people are not gonna respond to a person constantly taking the high road when they themselves are choosing to take a low road. And like, the people that go low in response shouldn't be, and not to say that she villainized them, but the people that go low in response shouldn't be villainized or shouldn't be made to feel like, they're doing the wrong thing because they are going low in response. And I think that conversation has merit.
It really does. Naturally, we always want to tell people to turn the other cheek. Naturally, we always want to tell people, don't, just because they act a certain way doesn't mean you have to act like them. And, if they're down there getting dirty in the mud, you don't have to get down there. That sounds good. But after so many, I mean, I only have two cheeks. After so many times, like, how many, what other cheeks do you, like, where are we going from here,
Right. And there's a conversation about boundaries, because if you let people
part.
walk all over you,
they will continue to walk all over you. A lot of times when I'm having discussions with friends about things, regardless to the topic, I'm like, what does the person doing you wrong have to gain from doing you right? Like, in any given situation, like,
that's good.
A lot of times people aren't going to change their behavior because doing right by you does not benefit them, does not benefit their bottom line of what they want. They're getting what they want, regardless to how you feel. So that's kind of the thing with Nico and Nate. Like, if Nate wouldn't have came with that, dirt on Nico, why would Nico stop playing dirty? It was not benefiting Nate, and it wasn't benefiting Nate. It wouldn't benefit Nico to change his actions towards Nate. He was winning. You know what I'm saying? Why would he want to level?
You're preaching. Yeah. You're preaching. And that's one of my favorite parts of this, I think, storyline was actually, number one, I thought Walinda was hilarious when she was just like, he needs to go to hell. I was like, oh, okay, church girl. No, I'm kidding. But the other part of this is the fact that Nate actually did say, and if you choose to not take option number one, like, there will be a second option. And I think, like, just that small indication that going low is okay when people test you.
Because sometimes if they go low, you go lower. Okay, drag it to the pits of hell if you got to.
Get in the dirt.
Yes.
Get in the dirt.
That part.
So yeah, that was my thoughts on that. Damon. Damon just trying to hear from his boo.
That's it. That's all.
That's it. He was like, and Simone was just like, she doesn't know if she is ready for the intense and all-consuming sort of conversation and relationship with Damon. I want to pause there for a second because I want to get your thoughts on that, because again, she was very ready a couple of episodes ago. So what do we think now that Damon has explained his feelings? What do you think about that and, like, her response?
So first of all, I love my leads. However, sometimes I just want to grab Simone and just say, my girl, let's have a conversation in the back. Like, let's talk. When she made that comment about Damon and, his all-consuming, whatever the exact, I don't have the exact quote. I think you just
It was just intense and all-consuming.
Yeah, thank you. It ticked me off because I was like, we already know our boy is struggling with his ex telling him his light shines this and that bright, and it's in Lando telling him that, and everybody always on him about just naturally being who he is, seemingly being too much for everyone. I love Simone. I love her. But that part kind of aggravated me because it was just like, now you're treating him like everybody else is treating him, and it's never been that dynamic with the two of you.
Right.
I honestly, going back to Behind the Mask, I honestly wanted Simone to be the one to confess. Like, I didn't want Damon to have to be the one to confess. So coming into this episode, I'm glad he walked away in Behind the Mask. And in this episode, I'm glad he kind of reiterated how he felt and walked off again, because it's like...
And give her a little bit of a timeline. Like, it wasn't an ultimatum, but it was just like, I'm not going to sit in a holding pattern forever. And I think that was important.
I was cheering from the balcony. Do you hear me? Because I'm like, all of this, run away, run away, run away. Like all of these games, like I get it. Don't get me wrong. Simone has been through a lot, both personally, academically. Like she's been through a lot. Um, but I still feel like Damon has professed his love enough. Damon has tried to let her know multiple times, to which she keeps reverting back to this, we're just friends. And I have a theory on that whole thing. Like, I'm convinced she's saying that for him to reassure her that they're not just friends. Like,
interesting.
Because why do you keep saying it and you visibly don't believe your own words? Every single time she says you're with who you're supposed to, everybody is where they're supposed to be. Or,
girl, you sounded just like her. I already knew the speech. I already knew.
Listen,
we both ended up with everybody that we were supposed to be
exactly.
with. Okay,
and she's like, because we're just friends, right? And all this friend is like, I think
and even to, I'm not as much this season, but even to Keisha a lot last season, right. Nate a lot last season, it was this whole sort of refrain of, we are just friends, and I don't even know, like, why are you bringing that up? I'm with Jordan, and blah blah. Last season, I'm with Jordan, or blah 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 blah, or Damon's with Thea. Now it was this, like, that was this season, right. And so it's like this whole thing, there's always, to your point, there's always a rebuttal. And what you're saying is kind of sort of reminding me of when I said, like, Simone has never sat in her feelings for Damon.
Oh, no.
And I just want her to sit in her feelings for Damon, because there is always a rebuttal. There is always a rebuttal. And we almost got her sitting in her feelings for Damon a couple of episodes ago, when they were both sort of deciding that this is what they wanted. But again, like, even that was just like a very quick, her finally acknowledging, right, that, like, that truly there's been something there, and now she can do something about it. But for her to, like, actually consider sort of her feelings on a long-term, like, spectrum, she has not done yet.
Yeah, she hasn't. And I feel like the person who gets the short end of that stick is Damon. Like, Damon has been certain of his feelings for Simone since the beginning. People can talk about that dry relationship with Thea that he had, but I believe that Thea was a distraction for Damon to,
of course,
in so many words, try to get over, just the same way Lando was for Simone. Like, it was just kind of like a Band-Aid to get through whatever they were going through at that moment. It was kind of reactionary. Right. Like, I'm going to just react to, for Damon, hearing Simone, not knowing her and Jordan are not together anymore. And then, boom, you're with Thea because you need a Band-Aid to kind of, like, cover the pain. And then Simone, knowing that Thea is about to tell Damon she loves him, and knowing where he's going, and then you end up, boom, with, like, that was just totally to kind of, like, put a Band-Aid and mask the pain. Definitely. So to your point, I don't think she's ever set in those feelings, and I think every time, I feel like he's more visibly hurt by it than she is. Like, 1,000%. We see her reactions when he's talking to somebody else, or when he's kissing Thea, or when he's getting in the elevator season, when he got on the elevator season 1. Like, you're seeing
with that girl, yeah.
Like, you see her reactions to that, so it's something deeper. But she keeps trying to, I guess, pretend that nothing is there.
Jeffrey has been really, I think, careful about the way that she plays Simone, as far as her feelings for Damon, because I don't know if that's just, I don't think that's just a thing that's, like, in the action lines or in a script. Right. I think that's really sort of Jeffrey being careful about her decisions as an actor, and really only letting Simone sort of sit in these moments but like in Simone, letting Simone sit in those feelings for Damon when she's alone, and I think that says something just about where Simone's headspace is.
Right.
Like nobody can be around when Simone shows her feelings for Damon.
Right. And you know what? I have to honestly, I have to give it to Jeffrey and Peyton. Um, I love seeing them just fully embrace the characters that they are. I hated it so much when the writers kept them apart. Like 1B, 2A, it drove me crazy because I think that's how people got on the Dia and Lamone, ships, because they were like, we weren't getting any Damone interaction, even platonically. And
Right.
when Simone and Damon exist either separately or together in any capacity, their acting is just, oh my God. Like I believe what I'm watching on the screen. Jeffrey is amazing. She literally in one episode can take you through like 5 different emotions and you believe every single one of them.
Definitely.
Every single one of them. So I never thought of it in the way that you explained it, that she's being careful. Because I was kind of judging her kiss with Simone's kiss with Lando versus her kiss with Damon. And I was like, even in those moments, right? We dissected it all the way down to her taking lead on the like Lamone kiss versus her allowing, like she leaned in first with Damon, but she allowed him to take control. And it was more subtle, but it was more not like romantic passion. I don't know if we can say the S word. Like,
go ahead.
Not like a sexual passion, but like with Lando, it was just kind of like, kind of like this flirty, I need something real quick. I need something to get me to the point. And it's like, that's kind of what that was. But with Damon, it was kind of like,
let me suck your face off.
Oh, yeah. I said he sucked her soul out of her body. Like, it's.
Versus, like, let me actually, like, be in this moment.
Yeah. Right. So, I believe, now I'm going to, when I go back and rewatch, I'm going to watch it to just watch her pacing, to kind of, like, absorb what you said about how she allows Simone to walk through this space with her feelings for Damon.
I'm excited to see, what we got next for Damone. Again, predictions. Other stuff on the Damon front is that the Brixton team is headed to the championship. They're a championship team, which we've known all along.
Right.
There was a really interesting, I think, interesting discussion that they sort of just plopped and then took it back, and I was kind of disappointed about. But again, sort of talking about the size of HBCUs, and I really wish they had expanded on that conversation, and maybe in the next 2 episodes, or maybe next season, hopefully, they will expand on sort of the difference in size in HBCUs, and like how bigger HBCUs sort of get all the focus rather than like tiny ones. But regardless, the phrase HBCU village came up.
Oh,
and I was just like,
you're like, okay,
that's NK. That's NK. I know an NK line when I see it.
You're like, this is NK coded right here.
Come on, village.
Sometimes I'm just like, I'm watching and I'm like, okay. All right. Okay.
But again, I do appreciate, again, just the focus on mental health and the importance of chosen family that she brings. It's just funny sometimes because
like the verbiage, like, there it is.
Yeah, there it is. And so the last part, which is the bus stop, and I feel like we talked about this a little bit up front, and I don't want to sort of walk through it step by step, but obviously the tennis team went through a whole entire
Right.
ordeal with this police stop. And from like 2D recording to getting the phone slapped out of her hand to Coach Lonnie being cuffed, it was really just it was a heartbreaking watch. I was nervous when they got up to do the breathing
Yeah,
stretching
I'm
exercises.
like,
I'm like,
I'm
what
like,
up?
what is about to happen now? Because we
And
know,
I'm glad nothing
right,
happened. And Simone eventually said, like, we may be strong black women, but just because we're strong, just because we are, doesn't mean they get to test that. And, eventually says to the officers, like, my mom is a lawyer and we know that this is illegal. And, they go. Jade also was recording the entire
right.
encounter. And so together, the tennis team decides to release the video. And also there was that wonderful moment where Tootie finally apologizes to Simone. And also like Amara encouraging Lonnie, which again was just really, really
Beautiful.
great. I think they had some great, beautiful, beautiful moments at the end. What did you think of that story and how they told it?
Um, well, in regards to the story about the bus stop, I now kind of want to go back and research like the actual event, because it's based on
Hmm.
an actual event. And I'm not sure
Right.
that I had heard anything about it prior to the show, which is why I love All American Homecoming so much, is because
They bring so many things
it
to
brings
light.
so many things to light. I love them. I promise I want them to get renewed so bad. Um,
Me too.
and watching that part of it, I mean, we've seen enough, even if we haven't experienced those things firsthand, we've been able, now that technology has it such that everything is at the click of your finger, to watch moments and instances like that. I felt like it was heavy, but I felt like this episode was such a great balance that even
Right.
though we had super heavy moments, we still had things that would kind of balance it out, but not take away from the moment. Um,
Agreed.
so I thought that that was beautiful. I thought the support was amazing. I love the way the girls rallied around Simone as the leader at that moment, right? So it's always been this struggle of, for whatever reason, one or another, they didn't want her to be the leader of the team, captain of the team. They didn't want to deal with her at all. Tootie mentioned it, like, I wanted them basically to hate you. Like, of course we know Thea
Right.
felt the same. And I feel like that moment allowed, if there was a silver lining in that moment, aside from them all just getting out safely, it was being able to see Simone step up as the leader and then get the support of her team and the coach. Like, we
Right.
have not seen that since she started going to Brixton. This is
Yeah.
literally the first time we've seen the team and coach support her.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up and you sort of like reframed that for me because when I was seeing this, I was just like, we have seen Simone sort of be this strong individual. I feel like through the entirety of season
Right.
two, and like always being the person to rally together, always the hey guys, let's talk about this. And so seeing that again for me, it was just like, and who is Simone gonna talk to at the end of the day?
Right.
Like, she's being strong for all of these people, but all of these other, like, we're seeing all of these other characters feel their feelings. But to your point, like, this is the first time that she's been able to sort of stand up and be a leader for the team
Right.
and get the support. Like, she's been doing this as a leader,
Right.
but this is the first time that nobody has really questioned her leadership, I
Correct.
think, or really said like, well, blah 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 blah. And I also think like I forgot to mention this, but like Thea not being there, I think sort of in a storytelling way, sort of facilitated this because I feel like the other girls would probably look to Thea if she was there and be like, okay, what are we doing? Just because she was like the de facto leader
Right.
before Simone hit the town. So I'm really glad that Coach Lonnie first of all, she was sitting at the front of the bus. She was asking, "Can we play?" So she really assumed that role, and so it was so good to see her like step into that and own that, and then get the support of her teammates. So I appreciated it too, and I agree. 10 out of 10. I can't add anything to what you said about how beautiful of a balance it was seeing this story too.
I agree.
And Amara and Lonnie, that scene just got me, because it's like them being, the grown women in the show.
And you know what's crazy? I didn't even know, like, again, like I told you, I was like multitasking. I'm live tweeting. I'm like gearing up for the podcast. I'm doing like all these other things and watching at the same time. So when I first saw the glass of wine and the bottle of wine, I honestly thought that was Dr. Pace's office. Like I didn't even pay attention to the fact that it was Coach Lonnie. Like I thought that Amar was going to have a reason to get rid of Dr. But like my mind has shifted that quick. And so when I saw that it was Coach Lonnie, and you kind of understand that moment of like the drink on the table and like what she's going through, and then like seeing her get emotional and feel how she felt, even though she did the best that she can or could at the moment. It's kind of like...
And she felt like she failed in this...
So many Black mothers, you know what I'm saying, who feel the same exact way. Like, you raise your children up the best that you can. We've seen movies about it where it's more family-based versus team-based, and the father has to get out, or the mother has to kind of try to protect the kids. And even though they get home safe, it's like the trauma... the internal trauma, because you're having to keep cool just to keep everybody else cool. You're having to try to keep the situation calm, no matter what may be like raging inside of you, what emotions are coming up inside of you. And then that moment when you get away to yourself and you can like kind of let it all out, and you feel like though you...
Stop putting on the brave face.
Right. Yeah. You feel like though you got them home safe, you already know the consequences or repercussions of what they could be feeling based on actions of other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're suffering at the hands of what somebody else chose to do. That for those officers, they left that scene and they're like gone on with their life. But the mental anguish and trauma, she probably felt like emotionally she failed them, even if it wasn't physically,
Right. And just that thought of like, I could have stood up more.
Right.
Like, and it's like you said, a thousand different thoughts about that situation and that encounter and like what could have been.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they all got home. So
that's what counts.
We praise God for that. We praise God for that.
A win is a win.
Especially when it's life.
Exactly.
Because those were sheriffs. Not regular cops. Those were sheriffs. In the back of Georgia too. I don't even got time to get into that.
I lived in Atlanta for 15 years, so trust me, I get it. I know. I lived on the outskirts, so I do understand. Trust me. And being from the South, the deep South, Louisiana, thank goodness they're good.
Yeah. So stand up for something. Thanks for listening to Film Study, an All-American Universe podcast with Lexi. Those were our thoughts on episode 213, Lose to Win. And stay tuned for our predictions for 214, Stand Up for Something.